The bridge was dead quiet, rows of officers stiff at their stations, the Star General's presence radiating that usual mix of intimidation and authority that made even the ventilation hum softer. Her gaze moved across tactical readouts with military precision, her every word a barked order sharp enough to slice hull plating. Aliens and humans alike snapped to her rhythm, the entire starship like a well-oiled war machine. Except for me. I leaned back in my chair, legs crossed, far too relaxed for the battlefield map hovering before us. When she scolded the navigation officer for a decimal error, I couldn't resist. I smirked, leaned close, and let the words slide out like a dropped grenade. You're adorable when you're angry. Time froze. The bridge went silent enough to hear the reactor core 3 decks below. Every pair of alien eyes flicked from her to me, then quickly back to their screens as if pretending they hadn't heard. But they had. Oh, they definitely had. The general's crimson face was sudden, shocking, impossible to ignore. Normally her skin was a cool pale silver, all regal composure. Now, a deep red flush spread across her cheeks and up her pointed ears. I grinned wider. Oh, would you look at that? Didn't know generals could blush. A tactical officer coughed so violently I thought he was choking. Another slammed his hand down on a console, blurting. Proximity alarm. Possible asteroid field detected. The radar was clear. He knew it. Everyone knew it. The general turned slowly, her eyes narrowing to a blade's edge, her voice low and dangerous. Lieutenant. Yes, General? I replied with a mock innocence that probably should have gotten me spaced. Protocol forbids, she started, but her voice cracked on the word, and I swear the communications officer almost fell out of his chair trying not to laugh. Protocol forbids charm? Shame, I said, leaning back further. Good thing humans have a long history of breaking silly rules. The general's nostrils flared. You will. You will what? Punish me? Oh, General, you're making promises you don't know if you can keep. Someone near the helm actually dropped their stylus. Another officer buried her face in her hands. The air was thick with suppressed laughter and pure panic. The general stepped closer, boots clicking like gunfire against the deck, towering over me, voice trembling not from fear but from sheer fury she couldn't disguise. You dare humiliate me before my crew. Humiliate? No, I said, lowering my voice so only she and the dozen officers closest could hear. I made you human for 5 seconds. That's not humiliation. That's a gift. Her flush deepened, spreading all the way to her neck. If her crew wasn't convinced already, now they were sure. Their untouchable commander had been rattled, shaken, cracked wide open by a single reckless human's teasing. Behind her, the first officer cleared his throat nervously. General, incoming report from Fleet Command. Silence, she barked, the word sharp enough to peel paint, but even that command lacked its usual thunder. I chuckled under my breath. I think they're enjoying the show. The crew scrambled like guilty children. One officer slammed a finger on the console and muttered, "Life support fluctuation." Another said loudly, "Sir, thrusters at 80%. Might explode." And then, in the corner, someone played static over the comms, pretending there was interference. I whispered just loud enough. "They're covering for you. Adorable." She snapped her head toward me, whisper shouting now, her composure cracked all the way through. "Do you have a death wish?" "Not really. But I do have a thing for women in uniform." Her hands tightened at her sides, fists trembling. "Lieutenant, I could. Court-martial me? Lock me up? Strip me of rank." I leaned in with a grin. "Don't say strip, General. It'll give the wrong impression." The comms officer made a choking sound that was absolutely not professional. The general spun to glare at her bridge, but the crew was suddenly very busy pretending to type at light speed, eyes fixed anywhere but on their commander's blushing face. She turned back to me, teeth clenched, voice barely controlled. "You insubordinate human?" I tilted my head, pretending to think. Say it slower next time. Sounds hotter that way." The entire bridge held its collective breath. Her pupils dilated, breath uneven, the tight control she was known for unraveling in real time. And the more she fought it, the worse it got. The more she tried to command authority, the redder her face grew. "You are walking a line no one survives," she hissed. "And yet," I said with a cocky smile, "you're still talking to me instead of ordering my execution. I'd call that progress." The helmsman mouthed silently to the science officer, "He's insane." The science officer mouthed back, "Or brilliant." The general pointed a trembling finger at me. "One more word and—" "Adorable," I said instantly, cutting her off. The bridge erupted, not with laughter, not openly, but strangled coughs, boots shuffling, consoles bleeping unnecessarily as crew members slammed random buttons just to have an excuse to look away. Someone muttered, "Ship's on fire," under their breath and pretended to check the damage control board. The general's jaw clenched so tight I thought it might shatter. I leaned back, spreading my hands. "See, General, you can terrify a galaxy, command fleets, bend soldiers to your will. But one little human makes you blush. That's something special." Her eyes burned into me with a fury that promised retaliation. But I could see it. The way her chest rose a little too fast, the way her lips twitched like she wanted to form a retort but couldn't find one that wasn't soaked in innuendo. For the first time, the crew didn't see their invincible commander. They saw a woman caught off guard, losing to a shameless human who refused to play by the rules. And I'll admit, watching her turn that shade of red was the most fun I'd had since this war started. The bridge still buzzed with that nervous static of people pretending to work, the entire crew trying to unsee what they had just seen. The general had snapped back into her commanding stance, shoulders squared, lips pressed so tightly they looked carved out of steel. But her ears were still burning red, and every officer in the room knew it. They also knew their careers, and possibly their lives, depended on pretending nothing had happened. Which meant chaos was inevitable. The navigation officer blurted, far too loudly, "Uncharted asteroid belt at bearing 329. I glanced at the map. Empty space. Not even dust. "Asteroid belt, huh?" I muttered.
"Sure.
"Maybe next you'll detect a giant floating heart shape." The general's glare snapped toward him, and he stammered, "Correction, General. Asteroid belt resolved as sensor ghost."
Yes, ghost.
"Definitely ghost." The comms officer suddenly piped up, voice shaking. "Incoming transmission, General. Very urgent." He fumbled at the console, and then the speakers blasted to life with what could only be described as a sultry alien love ballad. Breathless crooning filled the air, lyrics about forbidden passion across enemy lines. The crew froze in horror. The general's blush deepened. I leaned on my console, smirking.
Wow.
Didn't know the fleet installed mood music. The comms officer smacked the controls frantically until the song cut off, leaving dead silence and a dozen pale, terrified faces. "Apologies, General. System glitch." She opened her mouth to deliver what was surely going to be a career-ending threat, but I spoke first, leaning in with a whisper that carried just far enough. "Looks like the universe ships us." A strangled sound escaped the helmsman. He coughed violently, disguising laughter with exaggerated hacking. "Air's too dry," he croaked, earning a suspicious side-eye from the general. Her fists clenched tighter. "This farce ends now." The HRAI chose that moment to materialize, a shimmering hologram in the center of the bridge. Its monotone voice was the worst possible soundtrack to her humiliation. "Alert! Potential breach of Fleet Regulation 473-B. Unauthorized display of unprofessional affection detected. Commencing disciplinary review." The general froze, her jaw twitching. I raised a brow. "Unprofessional affection? That's what you're calling it?" I was just being honest. She is adorable when she's angry. I can't help it if honesty's against the rules. The HRAI's head tilted. Charges include weaponizing compliments, destabilizing command hierarchy, and creating an unsafe emotional environment. A murmur rippled across the bridge. Half the crew avoided looking at me, the other half tried not to grin. "Unsafe emotional environment," I repeated, grinning wider. "What? Are we at war or in couples therapy?" The general growled, low in her throat. Computer, dismiss the HR module. Unable to comply, the AI droned. Emotional disturbance exceeds protocol threshold. General, please indicate whether you consent to the lieutenant's advances. The silence hit like a missile. Every eye snapped forward, and I swear you could hear the sweat dripping off the crew. I leaned back in my chair, folding my arms, smirk plastered on my face. Yeah, General. Do you consent? Her eyes blazed murder, but the color burning across her cheeks betrayed her. Lieutenant, you will be executed for this insolence. Not exactly a yes, but not a no either. Mixed signals. The tactical officer to my left was shaking, biting his knuckles to keep from laughing. Another muttered under his breath, "This is better than holodrama." The general snapped, voice sharp. Enough. All of you, focus on your duties. Yes, General, came the chorus of terrified voices, but no one was really focused. One officer pulled up the ship's diagnostic and loudly narrated. Thrusters stable, energy output nominal, definitely not overheating due to tension. His cheeks were bright pink. The general's hands slammed down on the command console. Do you all want to be court-martialed? No, General. Yes, General. The mix of answers sent another ripple of suppressed laughter through the crew. Someone near the rear actually whispered, "I ship it," earning them a vicious glare from the weapons officer. I stretched leisurely, ignoring the storm in her expression. If it makes you feel better, General, I think the crew's on my side. Her voice was ice, but her body betrayed her, trembling ever so slightly. You are insufferable. Insufferably charming, I corrected. The HRAI beeped. Correction log. That did it. The general turned on her heel, boots striking the deck like gunfire, and barked, "Lieutenant, in my quarters."
Now.
A collective gasp rolled through the bridge. My grin widened. General, I didn't think you'd be so forward. Usually you at least buy me dinner first. Now, she roared, cheeks blazing, eyes narrowed to deadly slits. I stood, casually adjusting my uniform, taking my sweet time. The crew's eyes followed every move, wide with disbelief. As I walked past, one officer muttered too loudly, "He's dead." Another whispered back, "Or about to get very, very lucky." I winked at the last row before following her out. Place your bets, gentlemen. The doors hissed shut behind us, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. The crew sat frozen for half a beat. Then the helmsman whispered, "We're all accessories to treason, aren't we?" The science officer sighed. "If this is treason, I'm invested." The comms officer slumped forward. "I can't file a report on this. HR already ships them." The HRAI flickered once more before fading out, its last line echoing across the tense silence, proceeding with private disciplinary hearing. High probability of intimate resolution. The bridge erupted, not with open laughter, not yet, but with stifled snickers, muffled coughs, and a chorus of awkward keyboard tapping as everyone pretended nothing was happening while imagining everything that was. The doors sealed behind us, and the silence in her quarters hit like a gravity shift. No bridge crew, no witnesses, just me and the Star General radiating fury strong enough to power a reactor. She spun on me the second we were alone, eyes burning, lips pressed so tight they could have cut steel. "You've embarrassed me in front of my command," she hissed. I leaned against the wall, arms folded, smirk lazy. "Correction. I made you look human in front of your command. There's a difference." Her jaw clenched so hard I thought it might snap. "Do you understand the gravity of what you've done? I should. Execute me, court-martial me, strip me of rank? You've said it all already." I cut in, grin widening. "But here you are, dragging me into your quarters instead of having me shot. Interesting choice, don't you think?" Her nostrils flared. "I brought you here to discipline you." I tilted my head. "Discipline, huh? You have no idea how dangerous that word sounds in human culture." Her eyes narrowed. "I am not here to play your games." I pushed off the wall, taking a slow step toward her. "Too late, General. You started playing the moment you turned red in front of your crew." Her face betrayed her, color rising again despite her iron will. She stepped back, hand twitching near her belt like she wanted to draw a weapon, though what she'd do with it wasn't clear. You are a disgrace to this uniform. I stopped just close enough to invade her space. And yet, you haven't told me to leave. Her breath hitched, subtle but there. I should end your career right now. I leaned in, voice low. Or, you could admit you like the attention. She snapped, shoving me back with both hands, but it wasn't with the force of execution. More like someone who didn't want to admit they were shaking. Arrogant human. I stumbled a step, laughed, straightened my jacket. Guilty as charged. You think this is a joke? She demanded. I think you've been so busy being a perfect general that you forgot what it feels like to just be a woman, I said, tone shifting sharper. And yeah, maybe I'm crazy enough to remind you. Her eyes widened for half a second before narrowing again. You presume too much. Do I? I closed the gap again, this time slower, watching her carefully. Because you could have thrown me out already. You could have stunned me, cuffed me, shipped me back to Fleet Command with a note that says, uncontrollable idiot. But you didn't. You brought me here. Alone. Her lips parted, but no words came out. I smiled, voice soft. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me you don't like it when someone calls you adorable. Her chest rose faster now, breath uneven, but she forced out. You're playing with fire. I grinned. I like fire. The silence stretched, heavy, charged, her glare locking with mine. She finally broke it with a growl, grabbing my collar and pulling me close until our noses almost touched. If anyone finds out about this, they already think it's happening, I whispered back. Might as well make it true. Her eyes flicked down to my mouth before she jerked me away, shoving me hard enough, I staggered back into the couch. I landed sprawled, smirking. You're insufferable, she muttered. I lounged back, spreading my arms across the couch. And yet you can't stop engaging me. Admit it, General. You love the sparring. She paced, hands behind her back like she was back on the bridge, but the tightness in her shoulders betrayed her. This is madness. Madness is following protocol, so tightly you suffocate, I said. Madness is pretending you don't enjoy being challenged.
Me?
I'm just the cure. Her laugh was sharp and bitter, the first laugh I'd ever heard from her. You're calling yourself medicine? You're poison. I shrugged. Some poisons taste sweet. Her eyes flicked back to me, and that was it, the line snapped. She strode across the room, grabbed my collar again, and this time kissed me like she was declaring war. Fierce, angry, hot enough to burn. I kissed back, matching her intensity, hands sliding to her waist, pulling her closer. She broke away, panting, glaring down at me. This never leaves this room. Scout's honor, I said, lips still curved in a grin. She shoved me down again, straddling my lap, hands gripping my jacket like she wanted to tear it off and strangle me with it at the same time. You'll regret this. Worth it, I breathed, before kissing her again. Clothes became less of a uniform and more of an obstacle, hands fumbling, lips clashing, every touch more like combat than tenderness. She wasn't gentle, not for a second. Every move was a challenge, every push a test of dominance. I gave as good as I got, laughing between kisses, teasing every time she tried to take control. You really think you're in charge? I muttered, tugging at her belt. I am in charge, she growled back, yanking at my collar until I thought the fabric would tear. Not tonight, I whispered, flipping her beneath me with a grin. Her shocked gasp turned into a growl, then laughter, dark and breathless. You're insane. And you're still here. I shot back, voice husky. The rhythm of it wasn't romance, not soft and sweet. It was fire and fury, power clashing with irreverence, discipline burning away in the heat of desire. Every curse she spat, every threat she whispered only made me grin wider, only pushed me to answer with another jab, another tease that made her flush deeper. When it was done, she shoved me away, standing with her uniform half-wrecked, hair mussed, breathing heavy. She glared at me like she wanted to kill me all over again. This changes nothing, she snapped. Sure, I said, still sprawled, smirk plastered on my face. Nothing except the part where you kissed me first. Her cheeks flamed red, hotter than ever. If the crew heard any of that. I tilted my head. Funny thing about comms, General. They sometimes stay open by accident. Her face froze, eyes wide with horror. I grinned, biting back a laugh. Relax. I didn't check. But imagine if they did. She growled, snatched her jacket off the floor, and stormed toward the door. If one word of this gets out. I interrupted, softer this time. They'll just think you're adorable when you're angry. She froze, back still to me, fists clenching. Then, without turning, she stormed out, the doors hissing shut behind her. I lay back, laughing to myself. The crew had to know. Hell, half the fleet would know soon. And I couldn't wait to see the look on her face when she realized she'd never live it down. Her anger didn't fade. It simmered, low and steady, like a reactor kept deliberately at critical just to make everyone nervous. The bridge crew shuffled in silence, eyes darting between her and me, waiting for an explosion. But I didn't flinch. I leaned back, folded my arms, and gave her the same grin that had gotten me thrown out of bars, poker halls, and one planetary senate. She hated that grin. She hated how much she liked it even more. Her lips tightened, her jaw flexed, and the crimson in her cheeks only deepened. Report, she snapped at her navigator. The poor officer stammered something about coordinates. Everyone knew she wasn't listening. She was trying not to combust. I tilted my head and whispered just loud enough. Still adorable. The sound she made was halfway between a growl and a gasp. A warrior general, scourge of campaigns across 3 sectors, undone by one insubordinate human who refused to take her too seriously. Her fists clenched on the railing. The crew braced. I expected shouting. Instead, she hissed, with me. Now. She didn't wait for me to move, just marched off the bridge like she owned not just the ship but gravity itself, her stride sharp, boots clicking. I followed, smirking, the tension of 50 eyes glued to my back as the hatch sealed. Whispers erupted behind us like a wave. The corridor was blessedly empty. She spun on me before I could open my mouth, finger stabbing my chest. You dare humiliate me in front of my crew? Twice. I leaned closer. You turned redder the second time. That's progress. Her nostrils flared. She was a furnace, every muscle tight, trembling with rage, or something close to it. You think this is a game? Of course it is, I murmured. The rules are simple. You scowl, I tease, and somewhere along the way, you forget you're supposed to hate me. Her eyes narrowed dangerously, but they flickered. Just once. A crack in the armor. That was all I needed. I pressed the advantage. You know what your crew saw? Not weakness. Humanity.
They saw you blush.
They saw you real. For a long heartbeat, she said nothing. Just stared, breathing hard, every part of her screaming restraint. Then she shoved me hard against the wall. My back hit steel. Her body pressed close. Not gentle, not tender. She was testing me, waiting for me to flinch. I didn't. I grinned in her face and whispered, even cuter up close. The sound she made could have been a curse or a groan. Her lips crashed onto mine, fierce, teeth grazing, anger bleeding into hunger. For a second, all that rigid discipline shattered. She kissed like she commanded fleets, total domination, no hesitation. I met her bite for bite, laugh muffled against her mouth. When she broke away, her breath was ragged. You, infuriating, adorable, I supplied, panting. She almost laughed. Almost. Instead, she grabbed my collar and dragged me further down the corridor. Doors hissed open to her private quarters, and she threw me inside. The hatch slammed, locking out the world. Her eyes gleamed like a predator's. This never leaves this room, she growled. Of course, I said easily. Wouldn't want your crew to know you melt when I didn't finish. She silenced me with another kiss, harder than the first, hands tugging, tearing, impatient. The general who demanded absolute order was chaos in my arms, every shred of tension breaking free in reckless hunger. And yet, between gasps and laughter, the comedy of it all lingered. She knocked over a chair with her boots. I hit my head on a console and swore. She cursed her armor clasps, muttering about, "Damn human fumbling fingers." I teased back, "Protocol doesn't cover this, does it?" She bit my shoulder just hard enough to leave a mark. The darkness of her humor surfaced too. "You realize," she panted, "if the crew ever found out, I'd have to execute you." "Worth it," I shot back, grinning even as she pinned me. She rolled her eyes, breathless, half laughing despite herself. "You'll be the death of me. Or the life of you," I countered. The hours blurred into a reckless storm. Laughter, teasing, heat, the push-pull of fury and want. Every moment felt like breaking 1,000 regulations at once, and that only made it better. She cursed me between kisses. I whispered, adorable like a mantra, until she threatened to gag me, then kissed me instead. When silence finally settled, the general lay tangled beside me, her hair wild, her composure long gone. For once, she didn't look like a statue carved of iron discipline. She looked alive. "This changes nothing," she muttered into the dark. "Sure," I said, smirking. "Until tomorrow, when I call you adorable in front of everyone again." She turned her head slowly, one eye glinting at me. "You wouldn't dare." "Would and will." She groaned, covering her face with a pillow, equal parts exasperated and amused. I laughed softly, tracing idle circles on her arm. The truth was obvious, even if she'd never admit it aloud. She needed the chaos I brought as much as I needed the fire she hid. The next shift, when the bridge doors slid open, her crew went dead silent. She strode in, perfect uniform, perfect posture, except for the faintest, lingering blush she couldn't quite hide. And me? I leaned against my console, grinning, ready for round two. Because some wars aren't fought with fleets. Some are fought with smiles, blushes, and the dangerous game of calling a star general adorable when she's angry. And in that war, I was winning.